To do that, you go under the Other menu to Sign On, and you'll get a list for each physician in the clinic. Now, if I wanted to look at the forms for Dr. McIver, I would double-click on that physician, and on the first page of the sign-on, there's a button called Customize Integrated Forms List. By clicking on this, I will be able to see all of the forms that we have available. Now, we are continuing to add new forms, which you can find by checking this list often or by checking our release notes, and we will tell you which new forms have been added. This particular physician has all of the forms selected, and I can tell that by the little Z to the very left side. If I want to deselect, I click and you'll notice the Z is gone. If I want to select, I select again and I get this little Z. Now if you're using a Mac computer, that little Z is actually a checkbox. One thing that all physicians should have checked is list all LabRex diagnostic imaging and hospital bookings. And for those in the Calgary region who use the CT and MRI, you also want to have checked Show MRI and CT forms. Now again, that is just for the Calgary MRI and CT. The Edmonton MRI and CT are not stored here. They are stored in the first one I pointed out, the List All LabRex. Once you've selected all the forms for that physician, you would hit the Save button and then save the sign-on. The forms drop list can be accessed from both the chart and the encounter. So I'll first show you where you can find it in the chart. From the patient's chart, there is this drop box right here. And I can see all of the forms that we have selected for this physician. Now I have all of the forms from all of the regions selected. In pretty much all cases, the list for each physician will be much smaller, as they would only have the forms pertinent to their region and them selected. We have all the LabRecs. Here are the two I pointed out, previous requisitions and previous MRI and CT. That is because after I choose a LabRec for a patient, and I print or fax or save it, it can then be accessed under that patient's form list under previous requisitions. So I can come in and go in and reprint, look, whatever I need to do on the previous requisitions for that patient. Now I'll show you where it's located in the encounter. It is underneath this forms drop box right here. Again, it's the same list. The difference between doing it in the encounter is after you've selected a specific form, it will enter into the encounter note for you what form was used. And again, it can always be refound under previous requisitions. And then for the Calgary MRI and CT requests, they are found under previous MRI CT. There are certain forms that are not stored under the previous MRI, CT, or previous requisitions. And those are forms such as the motor vehicle, the WCB, the prenatal. Now I can show you, you'll be able to tell if they're stored there or not because they have their own history page. And you have the option to add new or look at an old one. So I'll go to the motor vehicle. So again, any form that has their own history option and gives you the option to do a new test is not stored under previous requisitions. It's stored under its own category, and you'll notice it's put all of the tests that I've just opened here. Now, you can also set up, on certain forms, you can set up templates, and I'll use the LabRec as an example. So for LabRecs, you may have common tests that you always order. For example, with a patient with diabetes, you always order these tests. Or for your standard male or female physicals, you order these specific tests. So how you set up a template is I'll just go through. I might want a CBC, I might want an ALT, creatinine, random glucose, I might want an FSH, and some extra tests that are not listed. So after I've gone through and checked all of the tests that I would commonly order for this particular scenario, I would create template, give it a name, and I would save the template. So the next time that I go in and use that lab rec, so I'm going to go back to Calgary lab rec. Now instead of having to go through and re-choose all of what I've chosen, I come in here and I choose scenario 1. Now we go through and we can see that everything that I have checked is there. So the templates can save a lot of time, especially for physicals, etc., that you will commonly order the same tests.